Hey guys, welcome back inside the stash. We are going to do a kit review today of this NuNu. So you can't really see the logo because of the overhead light glare. There you go. The NuNu Hobby BMW 320i 46. This is the Super Production Dutch Touring Car Championship 2001 championship winner. Ironically, this car on the box is not the car that won the championship. Did win some races, but be that here or there. This is not a brand new release. This kit came out last year, actually. Actually, it might have been a year and a half ago now. But this is a new release by Platz, the Japanese company that distributes NuNu's kits, and has 3D seatbelts. Now, if you're any sort of modeler who pays any attention to anything outside of automotive, you know that 3D seatbelts, harnesses, and 3D cockpit decals have become quite the thing in the airplane side of the IPMS folks' hobby, where you get to pretty much replace entire cockpits now with these 3D printed items that are water slide decals, but they are resin printed water slide decals, newfangled technology, and that gives them an actual puffiness, an actual texture that makes them look like actual seatbelts. Much better than the decals being placed onto the seat, or the just cutting the seatbelt decals out of the sheet and gluing them on with, like, say, white glue to at least have them not be adhered to the seat. So basically, there is a brand new release of this 320i that just was released this past few weeks, and I was going to do a kit review of that. But I realized because these two kits share so many parts, basically they're being effectively two small parts runners, one very tiny parts runner, and the body being the main differences between the two. And we've never reviewed this kit. We're going to do a long form review of this one. So sit back, relax, kick your shoes off, prepare yourself a few adult beverages if necessary. And then we'll do a review of the newly released kit. That's actually like new, and we'll only do the differences in that kit. That way we won't do two big full-blown huge reviews. It'll only be one long review of everything that's in this kit, and then we'll do a shorter format one of everything that is new in the 2004 version of this kit that was just released at the beginning of January. So this is, of course, again, your box art for this kit. This is a Marlboro sponsored car in real life. There are no Marlboro decals in this kit. You basically get this sort of half-assery that's going on with places where the logo should be, places where the Marlboro thing should be. But if you buy the detail up set that's sold separately, the PE set, it does include all of the proper logos with the widow's peaks and all the Marlboro lettering as well. So we're just looking at this as a out-of-box review of just this kit without the PE, because I didn't buy more PE with this kit. I just got this because of the new 3D seatbelts. On the side here, you get a look at what the kit looks built up with, again, those sort of quasi Marlboro, but not really Marlboro liveries. And this side just gives you, your warnings about the kit, your color callouts in color, which is always nice, because if you start looking up these things and you're not real familiar with Mr. Hobby colors, at least you can sort of get a general gist of what the color should be. The color translations are in English there on the side, if you can see them. And again, this is a Platz specific, Japanese specific release of this kit. If you want one of these, you will have to go through a Japanese vendor to get one if you want the 3D seatbelts. The other kit without the 3D seatbelts is widely available. There's also a Platz release of this that comes with window masks. This does not appear to include window masks. From a quick glance inside, it just has the seatbelts instead of the window masks, which is kind of weird. I don't know why you wouldn't just include them, but hey, it is what it is. So when you open the box, you get a whole bunch of plastic parts wrapped in plastic. I'm going to spare you the aggravation of listening to me rustle through all of these bags, and we will be right back in a second with everything out. Alright, so there are two larger sprues as part of this kit. This first sprue has your roll caging, pretty much. This would be the driver impact zone, sort of crush cell So this is the driver's side of the roll cage. This is be the passenger side of the roll cage. Your top of the roll cage, a brace for the roll cage. Over here you have your brakes as well as your computer for the car itself. I don't have a pointer, which is kind of annoying. How did I manage to not have something to point with? We'll use the spatula. And then over here you have your front strut towers with, you have your place for your steering arm to attach. These are steerable wheels. And then your rear strut coilovers in the back there. And then you have your fire bottle. You have the top of the oil sump, and then another piece of computer gear. Falling out of this is the radiator, broke off in transit, but this is pretty much a blank on one side and a radiator texture on the other. If you get the PE set, it does include radiator faces for both sides, which I don't understand the point of, because again, this is a curbside kit, so you're never going to see this side, but I guess it does give a little bit better mesh texture than this has within it. And then looking at the brakes, bring them up close here so we can see what we're looking at here. And they do have a little bit of a cross-drilled effect to them. Bigger brakes in the front, smaller brakes for the rear. And they, like I said, they have a good texture on them, giving a good paint, and then a panel line wash within the brake rotors will make them really stand out. They do have, you can see a little bit of wispy flash to this kit, which really probably shouldn't have at this point, but it's nothing that a couple scrapes with a knife won't handle. And this is really, at this point, I don't know, the 4th or 5th running of this tooling, because this particular sprue is universal between the two kits. So there's that. The other, whoops, dropping things. The other larger sprue, which is this one here that has the bulk of the rest of the suspension, as well as beginning parts of the interior inside of it. You have here, oh, we don't want to lose the radiator, let's put that back in the box. You have your sort of stripped down parcel shelf. This would be in the back, basically on the rear deck. Your rear window would meet right here. So you have a stripped down parcel shelf. That's a nice touch. Hasegawa's 318i's have just a blank piece of plastic with not any texture to them. You have your dashboard, of course, your transmission brace, a little bit more roll caging, your prop shaft, your differential with your axle shafts. There are 2 sets of mirrors included in this. Basically, you're going to use one set, and the other set goes to the newer car. You're going to use this set on the build. This set here goes to the 2004. You have your steering wheel, you have your foot rest, you have this extra panel here, which is would be the spare tire well. There's not actually going to be a spare tire in a race car, obviously. And also your fuel tank. This is a separate piece on the chassis. Basically, A, it aids in painting, and then B, it also is going to be a situation where this chassis will go underneath about 4 or 5 different versions of a M390 series chassis. So this will allow them to swap out the correct tanks and the correct spare tire wells in future releases without having to retool the whole chassis. You have the sort of upper suspension. This goes across the top of your differential. This is your again, another part of your rear suspension. This is your front suspension, sort of the bottom. This would be the lower A-arms, basically. You have a large piece of deflection material, if you will, a under tray, that this is where your exhaust goes through. Your door handles are separate. You have a switch panel for the interior. These are your pedals, your mirror, your antenna, should you choose to use this and not get the PE set that has a turn metal antenna in it. Trunk latches, basically this has a set of the steel grommet with a rubber thing that goes into it that holds your trunk down. And then you have this shifter here as well as the wipers. Now let's take a closer look at some of these parts here. You have a little bit of a texture on this under tray, which is a little bit nicer than you might expect. At least it's not just a piss plate flat thing. Your pedal assembly has a little bit of texture to the pedals. Again, a little bit of wash on that if you choose. And then again, here's your your external door handles for the front and the rear doors, as well as taking a look at, well, there's really nothing to look at on the bottom of any of this. It is kind of nice that the sort of skeletonized version of your parcel shelf does go through to the underside. I don't think you can really see that necessarily, but if there is a way when this is all put together, you can sort of see like underneath the back seat into here by looking through the side windows. It's nice that that isn't just, again, flat with nothing on there. Your steering wheel has a couple of buttons on it, and then you have your dashboard, which I need to pitch this way so that you can see it. It has some buttons on the dashboard there. This, oops, let's see if I can do this two-handed here. There's a decal for the gauge faces. There's also a decal for these lower buttons down here as well. And then you're supposed to paint this little start button red. Other BMWs I've built have had all of these little switch panels be different colors. Doesn't appear to be something in this kit itself, but that might be a consideration as you build it. Just sort of look at the texture of some of the suspension pieces. Everything has a nice engraving to it. Curbside, so, you know, again, your business parts are the parts that you want to see. All right, so the largest sprue in the next bag, which has about 5 different little bits and pieces sprues, is this one right here, which has basically the rest of your interior parts. You have the under tray for the front of the suspension, basically is covering up the oil pan area. There is this piece right here, which is the bracing for the rear of the exhaust. You have your door panels themselves, very Spartan, very bare. It is a race car, basically what you'd expect. You have a release lever for the door and a grab handle to pull the door shut again. You have the center console for the transmission tunnel, hole there for your shifter. You have the exhaust itself. You have this little plate right here, which is part of the exhaust mounting system. I'll make sure that's on camera. And then a little bit of slide molding technology here on the end of the parts runner is the exhaust tips themselves, which are about a third of the way drilled, I want to say. They're not all the way like through or anything like that, but they definitely have some depth to them. You know, painting these silver, steel, whatever the instructions call for, because I'm pretty sure this thing is a partially steel, partially burnt iron. As far as the instruction callouts go for the exhaust, you know, just go ahead and throw in some a small brush with a little bit of gunmetal in here. Will give you a little bit of an appearance of a dark metallic, right? Because remember, you know, people will paint these black all the time. You're not, the inside of your exhaust isn't black. It's the same color as the outside of your exhaust, unless you're really running some oil burning going on there. But it's a shadow, so I find that, you know, it's personal preference. I think gunmetal looks a little bit better in there than just painting them black and having them be, you know, a weird thing. Would you spray paint your exhaust cans? And then, you know, looking up close here, again, there's a little bit of a texture to this under tray, so it's not just flat plastic. And yeah, overall, again, good engraving, minimal flash. If you get the PE set, there's a PE piece to replace this suspension or this exhaust brace. So that's, again, up to you. With the other piece we're just looking at that had those strap tie-downs for the trunk, those are separate PE pieces. Again, if you wanted to go that way. Why don't you just show us the PE thing? Maybe I will at some point, but that's not the point of this review. And here you have your racing seat, just sort of punched out singularly. I bet you this must be in the mold, you know, probably like 4 or 5 times in a row, and they just take one seat out as each punch goes through. Decent. Whoops, hang on. There we go. Sorry, guys, we're a little rusty on these. You know, a little bit of texture of the seat. The back has the sort of standardized carbon webbing, as far as this having one of those Kevlar style yellow backs to them. I'm not sure if there is a decal for that or not. I haven't really paid that much attention to the kit decals in these, as I only plan to build one of these box stock, so to speak, with the Marlboro livery, and then beyond that, things will be other liveries as I go through. But that's, again, your seat. So that being that, this is your interior tray, if you will. So this is all, again, stripped out, nicely done, with some nice sheet metal texture to the back of the floor here. Nothing so much here on the actual like floor, but again, this is all going to be covered up with roll caging and seats and computer bits and your fire bottle and all your other little bits and pieces, your your pedals and your footwell and all that sort of thing. Not much to the bottom of this, because this is not the bottom of the chassis to the car. It is simply the bottom of this interior pan, so you don't need to worry about any of this. But yeah, again, some nice engraving to all this. Overall, pleased with this. This is designed this way, as far as having this open transmission tunnel and the side panels being detached, because the car, again, there's this 320, there's another 320, there is going to be an M3 GTR, which is a two-door car, and then an E90 3 Series 320, that obviously all ride actually on the same wheelbase chassis. And having this interior be so stripped down and basic allows them to use this, because it is the same wheelbase and the same basic interior stamping for two-door or four-door, to then have two-door door panels for this, a two-door length transmission tunnel type of thing, and then there would obviously be a back seat in an M3 coupe. So all this works out quite nicely, and having it be, again, smaller lets it just be the footprint of the interior rather than it being the footprint of the actual car, which again solves a lot of problems with length and width and things like that. So there's that. And then the last part from that bag is the actual chassis plate itself. You do have, part of an engine. It's just the oil pan here, sort of free-floating in air. At least it's free-floating in air, right? You get a 318 Hasegawa kit, and this has got a big piece of plastic here that you then have to sort of paint flat black to give the illusion of depth, basically. I don't know how much I would really do much detailing to the engine, beyond this point, because this whole front piece is going to be, again, covered by that front engine cover, lower lip thing that I just showed you. So basically, for your transmission back, so color up your exhaust and then color up your transmission and the rest of your prop shaft, and I think you'd be okay. This is designed to be white as far as this car goes, and most of the other cars that were run were also a white interior. I don't know of any. I think I know one that might be a yellow interior to it. But yeah, overall, again, much like everything else here, decent engraving. I've heard from various people this is a pretty boring kit to build. It's quote-unquote uninspiring, not because it's bad by any stretch of the imagination, just because it's very basic, very simple, and it's pretty drama-free from everything I've seen and read. There are arguments about body contours and stuff like that, but that's going to be every model kit ever made, because somebody has to be the Debbie Downer about stuff. But yeah, there you go, basic chassis pan. The last thing that was in that bag are the wheels. Let's see if I can do this correctly. There we go. So here are your wheel set. Little bit of debate about these wheels. The spokes on here are not quite the correct pattern. They're a little bit too far away in certain spots. It almost looks like there's spokes missing out of here. Also, while these are concave and 5-lug, they're not really as concave as they should be. This whole sort of basically the inside of this thing should be concave. And again, like I said, they're not quite the right thing. Now, LB Productions, our friends over there, Lau over in Hong Kong, does make these are 3D printed actually, correction wheels, which have the appropriate sunk, if you will, and the appropriate, the other thing about this are these are not flush to the face. These are quite concave, as you can see here. These wheels are concave to the lip, so they come sort of up and meet the middle rather than being flush to the face of the wheel like this. You can also see here that this part here with the wheel lugs is sunk, and the wheel lugs are quite a bit further spaced out than the tight little package you got going on here. Now, do you need to go out and spend, I don't know what these are, they're like $6 or $7 for a replacement set of wheels? No, because chances are nobody's going to know, but this is one of these things where now you know, and you may not be able to ever unsee that, but I have several sets of these because, well, I couldn't unsee it once I saw the problem with it. It might be a coronavirus side effect, if you will, because This kit had its final tooling done in 2020, right at the time when the coronavirus was really ravaging the Far East. And it's almost like somebody started designing these. They all went home. They came back and, okay, those are designed. And then hit print, so to speak. And this is the end result, are some wheels that are not quite what we needed them to be. But 99% of the people will probably never know that they're wrong. So consider that, important as you need it to be. In its own little bag, the bumpers. So from bumper back bumper, obviously, that should be self-explanatory. These are nicely done in a slide molded feature where all of the bumper is above the half section of the mold. Remember, your mold's coming together basically in the middle of this runner, where your seam would be all the way around this runner part. So with both of these being suspended over top of the mold, both of these are punched out without there being any kind of mold lines on them, which is cool. As we set it up this way, you can see what I'm talking about with them being way offset to the actual parts runner themselves. And with this, again, being the way it is, you don't have any mold lines on any of this. This little bitty piece right here is your steering shaft. This little bitty piece right here is a piece of the window roll cage bracing for the driver's window, basically. And then these little doodads right here are actually the exterior buckets to the headlights. The headlights on this kit are two pieces. There's this piece, which is to be painted black, which is basically the outside bezel, like your headlight's going to go on top of here. And there is a metallic chrome piece, which I'll show you in a second, that goes in here behind here that puts your light bezels themselves in. So it's an interesting three-piece breakdown to the construction. It certainly makes painting them a heck of a lot easier because this will be black and you don't have to mask it off from the actual headlight buckets like you do, again, on a Hasegawa 318, for example. This kit does include mesh to go behind this area here. We'll show it to you in a second with the wheels. It's a little thinner than most of the mesh you get in a lot of things, but it still is screen door mesh. The PE set has, of course, its own little doodads there for the, as far as the PE mask goes. I didn't see the, as we're going through this, I haven't seen the tow hooks yet, but maybe I passed them and I didn't realize. But anyway, so there is this little piece. In your chrome baggie, you got two little parts runners of chrome. There are, again, two sets of mirror faces on here because there were two sets of mirrors. So clearly, this whole taillight assembly will carry over into pretty much all of the kits, at least until the E90. I think the taillights might be different enough on that. But these are, of course, your taillight buckets, your mirror faces for the mirrors you're going to use, the mirror faces for the 2004 car. And then you have, again, here's your headlight bezels. So this will go behind that piece we just showed you. There's actually a turn signal bulb inside of here for that. And then your kidney grills are a separate chrome piece as well, which solves a lot of problems with painting the kidney grills. So they are, if you can see through, right? So they do give you a view back to that radiator, and that'll give you a little bit of depth with it. You're not going to sit there and mess up and goof around with a panel liner trying to darken the grill like you would on some 1970s AMT kit or whatever. But those are your chrome pieces. All right, so clearer parts. Very rarely do we take these out of the bag ahead of time, but we are reviewing here. So obviously your rear window, your front window, your side windows, and your tail light lenses are included on this sort of larger sprue. They include the dreaded, I've tried them, I don't mind them. All you need is a little bit of patience and wherewithal to use them. But they include the decals for the window black around the front and rear windows. These you're going to have to paint, which is why the window mask set is kind of nice. They are smooth on the inside, so there's nothing to paint on the inside. The framing is on the outside of the car. And so you have to go ahead and sort of mask off all of this area around here because you're going to paint the framing of the window, the B pillar of this, and then this little, not really a C pillar, but this little opera window divider. So know that going in. You will have to mask this. There are aftermarket masks available. It's all depends on what you want to do. Let me see here. Do the old optical clarity test, right? So, oops, I don't want to get the the glare of the light in. So let's look at it this way. So I'm standing over top of it so I can see what I'm doing. Oops, going the wrong way. And so as you go away, it looks like it's a little wavy, perhaps. But overall, you're not getting it. The further you get away, the wavier the glass seems to be getting. Although it may just be a reflection issue with the lighting, but it doesn't magnify. So you do have pretty decent optical clarity, aside from perhaps, like I said, there's a little bit of a wave. It seems to be more of a flow wave because it seems to emanate from the attachment pin and sort of expand out. So apparently it looks like it's a little bit of a flow type of wave, but it's not bad. Certainly I've seen quite a bit worse over the years. Back window is also optically clear. Side windows have a little bit of magnification to them. But they're also beveled, so they're going to do that. They're curved, so you're going to get a little bit of magnification to that. But overall, nice clarity to them, and everything's good there. And then you have this piece right here, which is a smaller, teeny weeny little sprue, and these are your outside, of course, headlight lenses. So those have a nice little fog line built into them, and a little bit of texture for the inside of the turn signal bezel. So everything looks nice there. So we're going to take a quick minute to put those back away. All right, so your rubber bag, if you will, has these pre-cambered touring car wheels that they put in pretty much all of their kits. It does allow you to put the narrow side in and your fat side out, and you'll get a little bit of a lean to it. So this is basically going to be your external tire face here. And I don't know, this gets into, some people don't like these pre-cambered wheels. I don't. They do the purpose they're for. You see a lot of if people complaining that if you pick the model up and look at it, it looks ridiculous. Well, yeah, I mean, that's hard to argue because it does look a little ridiculous, but how many people are picking up your models? Because if somebody just unilaterally picked up my model, they would probably be picking themselves up off the floor, other than like a contest judge or something like that. But those are your tires. They're unlabeled. There are tire decals, so that's not really that big of a deal. You have polycaps here with apparently one spare extra one in case you lose one, I guess. So there's 5, not 4. And here is, again, the mesh. It is a nylon mesh, kind of it is what's screen door mesh, let's be honest. But it is a much finer pattern than a lot of the other things you'll see out there. Ocean is particularly awful about their mesh. It has a pattern that will let fruit flies in and out. So I'm okay with that. Again, when I build these, I'll probably have detail upsets for all of them and use the PE. But for, a out-of-the-box build, I think this is pretty decent. Although now there's a whole argument about whether or not that would be considered aftermarket or not with the new IPMS basic kit build rules. But, hey, we'll burn that bridge when we get to it, right? Why start a controversy now? And, of course, the thing you've been waiting for, you came here to begin with, the body. So this is a 4-door touring car, obviously. You should have gotten that idea with the fact that there were front and rear door handles. There is a little bit of chatter online. The driver's door, particularly, is sort of at the bottom here, indented into the panel. It's kind of probably, I don't know how well that's going to show up, but it's kind of sunk a little bit. Kind of weird with that. The way to fix that, of course, is to cut this panel out and then brace it and reglue it back into the correct placing. But then again, a standard E46 doesn't have this kicker panel down here. That's a race thing, so yeah, it is what it is. Overall, it is very cleanly cast. Doesn't seem to have any kind of imperfections or any sort of necessarily large flaws. These two sort of holes back here are for mounting those trunk safety catches. This is just what they were using to pull it out of the mold. This cuts off. That's not really part of the body kit. On the side, more of the same. And then up front here, you get the overall gist of the front end, nicely separated. The kidney grill's gluing from the outside, the headlights gluing from the inside. And then you have some pretty decent looking, all things being equal, and as white on white, but the hood pins have a pretty nice engraving to them. Again, PE would have the replacements for those. And on the inside here, you have one little sort of pre-drilled hole that's not all the way through for mounting the, drill this out to mount the antenna. Overall, like I said, it's pretty good. Let's see here. Let's get the old eyeglasses out here and see what we're looking at in terms of body mold lines, because it's a model kit. It has to have them somewhere. Now, Tamiya has become very good at hiding them, and so we'll see. You won't see it, I don't think, but I've got to put my magnifiers on to sort of take a good look at what we got going on here. There's a little bit of a panel line running on just on the sort of top outside edge of the roof, seal, but it's very faint. A little bit of couple quick swipes with the old sanding stick. It's also on the very outside edge of the trunk, and then it comes down. Let's see here. Comes down on the outside edge of the trunk right here, and then a little bit of one right here. Probably could hear it. If you can't see it, that goes there. And then, of course, the bumper's a separate piece, so it doesn't continue onto the bumper. Let's go up front here. It runs on just the very outside edge of the hood line. It's very imperceptible. You have to, again, be magnified. I'm sure if you threw some primer on here, it might stand out a little bit better. But overall, nothing much there. And then they have it. Let's see here. It does come across the front of the hood here, but I think that might be a character line on the real car, because obviously that's where the hood would open. So you don't want to, maybe taking a little bit of this off so it's not so pronounced, but you don't want to lose that seam line, because then how would your hood open? And then they've got it basically wrapping down the inside of the headlight, and then coming down, let's see, right here on the outside of the edge of the fender. Again, you probably hear it better than you can see it, but it's literally right there. And so overall, yeah, I'm not going to complain about that. That's a pretty easy peasy cleanup. That's 15 minutes, maybe 20 on the outside if you want to be really super careful about it. But having the front and rear bumpers be separate obviously takes all of those mold lines off of the actual bumpers themselves, and doing a great job of hiding them within the mold lines, or the actual seam lines, body character lines of the car. So a little bit of cleanup, nothing too out of the ordinary extreme. We'll take a look at the instructions here and see if we can glue the bumpers and that stuff on ahead of time. Should be able to. Most kits you can. It would just be a matter of, getting the headlights and stuff like that in afterwards. But I don't think that would be necessarily be a problem with this, because, like I said, the girls glue in from the outside, and then these glue in from the inside, and I don't think the bumper would interfere with them. And then this is the same thing, where your buckets glue in to the back from the inside, and the headlights and the actual light lenses go in from the outside. So, again, the bumper shouldn't come into play there. So let's take a look at the instructions. There's a little blurb about BMW's motorsports history, starting with the BMW 2002 Ti, and going through this car and what it represents, and a little bit of blurb about Carly Motors, running in Macau and the Netherlands. Pause it if you want to read it. And then, let's see here. We're going to zoomy. That's in. There we go. Zoomy out. And take a look here. So, NuNu, Platz. Everybody's got their name on the outside of the instruction sheet. Up here, you've got your color callouts, which, again, if you want to really take a in-depth look at it, go ahead and pause it, and then come back. This gives you, you're beginning with the chassis building here, obviously, because heck, there's nothing else to do, right? It does give you, where'd my poker go? Here it is. It does give you the they call it the upside. So you're drilling through the top to get these holes done, and these are basically unlocking the. Maybe I shouldn't take the pointer, because apparently it's making the camera autofocus go crazy. Let's try it from this angle. These are going to be your holes for the trunk, or the later part of the trunk, the spare tire well in the fuel tank. And then these right here, I think, are for mounting the, let's see, the two closely drilled holes. I think it's something we need for later on over here. But anyway, this is basic beginning of instructions. Paint the one is always white in pretty much everybody's paint codes. So paint the chassis white, and then you're doing a little bit of steel and burnt iron and aluminum on the engine and prop shaft here. And you got your up front coilovers, your steering axle, steering arm, your tranny mount, and then your rear differential and the lower subframe for the rear suspension. Coming over to step 2, we've got the lower A arms, your lower control arms for the rear suspension. Here comes your fuel tank and your spare tire carrier, your under tray piece, which makes a bunch of the white chassis now black. You come down here to step 3. You're putting together your actual exhaust, your brace for the exhaust, and your sort of support for the exhaust pipes. Coming over here to step 4, we're painting up the brakes. This A is a 50-50 mix of silver and gold, so that's a titanium silver as far as I'm concerned, and then you have a burnt iron and a gold caliper. Repeat 4 times, mount your tires, come down here. They're saying 28, so steel for the wheel collar on this particular build anyway. Mount them to your wheels, throw your wheels on. So now you're up on wheels within the first 5 steps. Step 6, we're into the interior. This says underside, so you're drilling these holes from the bottom of the thing. This is going to mount your fire bottle, basically. So you have your center console, your engine computer, your fire bottle with a decal, showing you where to place the fire bottle, and then your footwell. You do paint the top of the fuel filler black, but there's no parts to it beyond that, so gives you an illusion of one. Stick shift, your sort of center armrest / computer thing, your seat, and these are the kit included seat belts, not the 3Ds, but the actual kit seat belts themselves. Having you paint the back of it 61, which I believe is like desert yellow or something like that. Burnt iron. Well, okay, burnt iron on the back there. So there's no Kevlar for the seat decal. All right. So step 8, we're at the dashboard here, and like I said, there's a decal for the panel, decal for the actual gauge cluster, steering wheel, the little teeny weeny little steering rod, and then you're building your roll cage, mounting your rearview mirror, and then taking this whole shebang and cramming it into the cockpit piece. A little bit more rear bracing, mounting your door panels, mounting that little package tray. Coming down here, throwing the radiator on, putting the interior onto the chassis. Just chucking along. That's why people say this build's uninspirational because it goes so fast. You want to white. This is telling you to paint the car red for obviously the Marlboro livery with a white interior. So just keep that in mind. Most of these cars did have a white interior, so the roof would be white inside, regardless of what the body color actually is. Painting the chrome bezel. So this is actually wanting you to paint this around white for some reason with a amber bulb. I'm not necessarily sure that's correct, but maybe we'll have to test fit it together and see what it actually looks like. And then putting in your rear taillight bezel, cutting your mesh to fit, putting your tow hook in. This calling out specific paint colors for the brace that goes across the front bumper here, depending on whether you're building the number 9 or the number 10 car. This is different colors. Put your door handles on. Glue your kidney grills in, glue your headlight bezels in from the outside, glue your front bumper on. So clearly we can put the bumpers on because we have not mounted this to the chassis yet. Last step of the outside basically is putting the outside lenses on. Here's your paint call-outs for how to paint the outside tail lenses and your rear bumper. You notice it says decals here. A lot of the black trim on this car is black decals. So you don't actually have to mask this off if you don't want to. Coming over here, you're going to put your windows in. This is the instructions on how to mount the actual inside the window black for the front and rear windows, and then your how to paint the outside edge here. The kind of sucky thing about these decals is they don't really do the complete job. You still have to come down here and you still have to paint the outside trim on the front window and the outside trim, at least on the lower edge of the rear window. Not ideal, so I would mask it and paint it and then put the decals on, or get the mask set so that you can do it all at once. And then, because I'm pretty sure Zoom On does a mask set for this, I'm pretty sure that, well, there's the set of this. It comes with window masks, so those window masks may be available separately. This is your mirrors, and they have a little decal on them for this particular setup. Put your antenna on, put your wipers on, and guess what? Sandwich this bad Momo together, and you're done. So, mounting it to the actual chassis. Again, doing some call-outs for the trim. Mount your lower valance for the front, and then you are done. And this gives you black decals for the expansion joints on the roof too, so you don't have to mask those off. That's handy. And then there's trim for the side trim. So no masking of trim beyond the windows. I'm willing to make that trade-off, because masking all of this external trim off is kind of a pain in the butt, especially if you're painting a white car, because you mess that up. Oh gosh. And then over here is your instruction sheet for decaling the car. There's very little callouts for the number 10 car, which is actually the car that won the championship, which is funny why they're doing this guy's car. I am not sure as far as being prominent, but yeah, you get the idea here. This down here has it's the word Marlboro, but it's not actually the word Marlboro. Very entertaining. If you we'll have to get the photo etch set up someday to show you what this actually looks like in real life as far as this. This doesn't necessarily have a very steep peak to it. This doesn't exactly have the correct peak to it in the back here. Whoops, I'm off camera with that. This doesn't actually have the correct peak to it either. But yeah, you're 95% of the way there. But you do need decals for this if you're going to make this car the actual Marlboro car. So there is that. Let's take a look at the decals themselves. So these are the 3D printed decals. And you can see there's a definite quality to these that is three-dimensional. You can hear there's definitely a above the paper texture to these. They're kind of hard to show, as far as, let's see if I can smooth this out really tight and then come in. Yeah, you can see there's a three-dimensionality to all of these things. They're already pre-painted, so that's nice. You don't have to sit here and, like with PE belts, you have to paint parts of it, belt color and all that stuff. And this does basically make a 5-part harness. You see the instructions here on how to sort of glue it together and then glue that brace in, or the pad in rather, for that goes across your waist on the upper part of the 5-part harness. And there are instructions on the back. They are in Japanese. Basically, this is telling you that treat these like water slide decals. Soak them in warm water, and then if they do not lay down the way you want them to, use a warm rag to apply heat to them rather than using a decal setting solution. Do not use decal setting solution on these decals. And then the kit decals themselves are the last thing to look at, right? Because you may not want to build this livery, but the decals are on here, and this would be what you're getting in a box stock build, again, without adding in the PE for the makeups, if you will, for the various Marlboro liveries. So first up, you have this sheet right here, which has all of the trim black, right? So you have your rear window, your front window, and then you have your roof. Actually, these are the side. I think this is the roof ones. These are the side door, like the front and rear doors. You have, I believe, this is going to be your front bumper sections, and then I have to look again to see what this bigger black section is. Your smaller sheet, and these are really nicely printed, you'll see here, of the sort of numbers, and these are your seat belts as far as the kit seat belts go. You can see, what you get with just one-dimensional paper decals. Your Oz Racing Wheel decals, your fire bottle decal, that's the little switch bezel thing for the dashboard, and that's your gauge cluster, which is correctly blank because it shouldn't have anything on it when the car is powered down. Your windshield headers, a couple other little things here, your Dunlop, I believe it was a Dunlop, right? Yeah. Tire markings, and then the car numbers, and then the bigger sheet, and this is all in white. This is sort of your front hood, your rear valance. These are sort of the outlines of the Marlboro thing. You would just lay them over the thing, and the red will come through from your paint, and then all of your other sort of BMW logos. It's kind of hard to show white on camera, but you're sort of getting the idea. And then you have these for the dealer team decals. Just a very weird, very weird thing. So there's two drivers to this, right? You have, let's see, where's the other driver? Okay, down here. So you have Tom Carnell, I assume it's Colonel, who, again, won several races this season. This car was raced in, but was not the actual championship winner. You have over here Sandor Van Esten, who was the actual championship driver for the car. So the number 10 car with that guy driving would be your championship winner for the Vodafone Libertel Dutch Touring Car Championship for 2001. So, boys and girls, that is your decals for this kit, and that is the kit in general. Again, I warned you, it's a long-form kit review. If you've ever gone back and looked at any of the kit reviews in this on this channel, they're all about 45 minutes to an hour long, which is what I think this will end up clocking in with the intro, the outros, and with the edits. One piece of little wax paper that got stuck in the decal bag. So, that is an in-depth review of the NuNu Hobbies Platz distributed BMW 320i. 2001 super production spec E46. So overall, it's a nice kit. I will hold off any sort of, well, I give it 3-star, 5-star thing. I am building, you know. Anyway, it gives you a point, assesses a point value to an out-of-box review. It's a little suspect. Because it could look great and then build like a dog. So there is that problem with some kits out there, and some of the Platz, well, not so much Platz doesn't do anything other than to mail these kits out to people, but some of the other NuNu kits have not exactly been the most stellar things, and some ones have been great. So it all depends on where you're at with the quality of the kit. Again, I've not heard any direct complaints about this kit in the sense of how it builds or what it builds into or it being unbuildable. I just hear that it's not a very inspiring car to build because it's so simple, so basic, and you can build it so quick. And a lot of the feedback I was getting on that were people who are doing decal schemes for this, alternate decal schemes for this. So, take that for what it's worth. When you're building 8 of these things to put decal mules onto, it probably does get a little boring to build them, but yeah. That one, guys, is that. So, hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you guys on the other side. For anybody who's stuck around all the way to the end, let's take a look at some aftermarket decals available for this kit. From SK Decals, we have the 2002 Gear Race of Macau Team Schubert Watson's Water Car. This is going to be a silver livery with the decals doing the majority of the heavy lifting here. You have the 2003, or excuse me, let's do year here. And then we have the 2002 Team Carly Motors, which you may recall from the instruction sheet is what this car was run by Team Carly. There are 3 team cars for this vehicle, so you can build a number of different drivers here, and the drivers are apparently on up. There we go. Got Andre Couto, Jörg Mueller, and Duncan Huisman. So you have this livery. Basically, the livery is the same on all the cars. The header is a different color, I believe. Yes, the header and something else. I can't find it all. Anyway, they're very, very similar. And then the 2003 Gear Race Macau, again, Team Carly Motors. Again, this is a 3-driver lineup with Duncan Huisman, Jörg Mueller, and Andy Prelow this time. Or let's see, it's Prelow. He's a British guy with a French last name, and this is another Watson's water car. Both of these cars are white, and then have your significant green parts with decals. And again, these three team cars are differentiated by their headers and their spat decals. So there's that. And then from Lau over at LB Productions, you have a couple of different options here. First up, you have the European Touring Car Championship Supercar Production Champion for 2001. This is another Carly Motors livery. This was a German racing team, obviously, with the German flag on the roof there. Raced in European touring. So this is a two-team car. You have Cox or Simon as your drivers. And I believe that Cox is going to be your championship driver on this. And then you have Schubert Motors, rather, for the Dutch touring car, or the Deutsch touring car, which is Germany, and the Macau Grand Prix in 2001. Both these cars are very similar, but they have a number of associate sponsorship differences when it comes to the actual liveries that they ran at the races. Silver car, a lot of blue. Basically, the only part of this you're going to have to paint is the front, I believe, of this. And he does include a mask in here for that purpose, as you can see down here. And you have a little bit of this bottom part down here is sort of the Macau livery. Oops, not on camera when I'm doing that. So these numbers and the header and stuff like that are the Macau livery. And then the 44 is the actual livery for the car that you saw there. This was a championship car. Again, for 2001 in this racing series. And this was actually done with assistance of the driver of this car, so that was kind of nice. And lastly, another 2001 car, and this is going to be a team car here for Ellen Lohr, and I'm trying to think of which Winkelhock this is. I think this might be Marcus, but this is the Halle sponsored car, and it is yellow, obviously. I think this might be the car that has the yellow interior with it. I believe the interior of this car was yellow as well. Ellen Lohr, female driver, so it's kind of a unique thing. She drove for BMW for a little while. There's other decals out there that have her driving BMWs, and then she switched to Mercedes-Benz a couple of different times within DTM. And so she's on some of the Mercedes cars that actually Tamiya did in the DTM cars, so that's something to look for. If you want to build female drivers, it's kind of a unique situation. There weren't really, Sabine is probably the best well-known female driver, but Ellen was quite a standout herself. And then there's going to be another set of these decals with the same sponsorship livery done for the 2004 car that we're talking about sort of in passing as being the next kit review. That has a different German female driver in it, who is the only female driver to actually have ever won a national championship in any form of motorsports. So, in the name of equality, it's certainly an interesting thing. Like I said, this is two different cars, though. It's the 22 and the 11. The cars are pretty much identical as far as the overall liveries of them. They just have the different driver names, and this is calling for TS16 yellow for that, and then the blue on this is going to be Tamiya LP6 blue, and then Tamiya X11 silver. So there is the coloring for that, and I think this is just white. Yes, yeah. So that covers that. Some other things you can build with them. That's why we bought some more of them, because we need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need 7 of these, plus I want to do the actual, like I said, the actual championship car of this. So 8 of them. I think I right now have 5. So it's always good when you lose track of how many things you have, right? Anyway, guys, that really is it. See you guys on the other side.